Hey everyone, this is Aaron back on our Texas Real Estate and Construction YouTube channel down here in the beautiful state of Texas. And we have a familiar guest, a familiar face here. He's been on the channel a few times, a wealth of knowledge in the business, real estate developer, syndicator, and all around interesting guy in the real estate business. We have Felix Galki. How you doing today, Felix?
Hey everyone. Well, yeah, I'm Felix. Okay, thank you for the intro. Glad to be back and excited to talk about some things with you.
Absolutely. And, we're talking an interesting time, I guess, with the way the economy has been going. Obviously, we had, the past 3 years have been very interesting to say the least, right? With the economy, home prices, building materials, all these different, the US dollar, all these different things
Yeah,
coming.
don't forget all the money we printed over here. We'll get into that, how it affects a lot of things, but let's not forget about that.
I didn't. Okay, I guess I did forget about the money getting printed, but man, as things have really changed, and we're talking an interesting time about people are concerned, right? People are concerned about the money they do have, the money they want to make, putting money into real estate deals, and overall how to make money in real estate development during a recession. So I'm really interested to hear your perspective today.
Yeah, glad to be here talking about it, and just having conversation around this subject since a lot of things happened, and with that also a lot of opportunities have closed but also open up. So it's always perspective and how you can set yourself up to be in a position to take advantage of these opportunities.
Absolutely. And just curious, I know that on our previous shows you talked a bit lightly about your background, but how did you get started in the real estate business?
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of where we met, right? Like back in Austin, I basically got started by studying finance at University of Texas with a minor in real estate. And then I got lucky enough where I landed a gig with a team here in Houston that focused on institutional grade, the sale of institutional grade apartment buildings. So I worked for that company for about 5.5 years. And there, I really got to know all the ins and outs of the multifamily business, right? Because at the time, I knew a little about real estate. I bought and sold a condo, but not really from an investment class point. And there I kind of got lucky because again, like I just found a team that focused on larger scale multifamily assets. So there I also got exposed to institutional funds that would work with us and pension funds. So I kind of learned the top down like big game and how these people like think, how they work, what they're seeing, their investment philosophies. And that really kind of helped me understand most of the material, but also like what asset class I want to stay in, and just happened to be multifamily where I started off because I think I just saw the most benefits in that kind of food group of the real estate sector.
You spoke about philosophy and way of thinking. If I know you've seen a lot of the multifamily space, can you talk a bit about how maybe that development and multifamily state of mind is maybe different from other parts of the business, or what do you think is unique about that way of thinking or that philosophy of development and multifamily?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually, by the way.
Yeah.
I like it because you always have to think about any product or service. You think about the end consumer, right? So in multifamily, even if I'm on the broker side, that's where I started off my career, on the broker side. Now I'm on the development side, but you always have to keep the end consumer in mind. So in this case, it's the tenant, which is what I like because like it's the everyday human being, you and me, right? We're like I live in an apartment building, so keeping that in mind and that philosophy, like okay, how can we serve that person most, right? Okay, it starts with like obviously like financial constraints, like how much can a person afford in this kind of area, in this kind of market? So what type of asset can we build or maybe upgrade to a certain standard? But more than that, it's also, I mean, there's a huge housing shortage in the US. So I also just like to basically support that need, right? So it's like a built-in safety, right? Like there's a huge lack in housing that I can feel proud of, like relieving that need because people want and need a home. So I feel very special being able to provide that for people now. And it's like it's an aligned incentive because people need that. I and my investors also can have the most security that that's gonna the best mindset that's gonna like actually be a successful business, because again, it's a huge need. It's not like, okay, I'm building some offices here. Well, people like to have an office, but maybe don't really need it, particularly now with people working from home. Versus housing, like food is a real need, like, right? We all need shelter. So that's just why I like this kind of food group, if you will, in the sector. And I think it's a certain way of basically like helping people have affordable, safe housing that they're proud to call home.
Absolutely. And like you mentioned there, we're deep in the housing shortage, right? There's people moving here to Texas, maybe domestically, maybe internationally. People want to live here and they need accommodation, they need housing, right? And obviously the multifamily asset class, will be something that's going to be a really important part of the real estate business for years and years to come. So what makes multifamily, what makes that asset class unique, maybe compared to other parts of the business?
Yeah. Again, like excellent question over here. That's partially why, again, like I like why I mentioned these big institutions and whatnot, and their mindset, because what I remember hearing over and over again is that multifamily also has like the best products around surrounding them. What I mean by that, it means, well, you've got the most financial products, right? You got the agencies that can like alleviate debt needs, right? So I can go get a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac loan to acquire property, right? You don't have that in retail or other food groups. Again, what COVID proved is that it is one of the most recession-proof assets, right? Because like at the end of the day, people live in an apartment building, and I do too. The first thing I pay every month is my rent, right? Mm-hmm. Before I pay my insurance or car bill, or maybe if I have an office bill, I'm a business owner, like I gotta make sure I have shelter and a place to stay. So that's another reason why, again, like I like multifamily, because as a landlord, I know just as much as I care about my shelter, anybody else who lives in any of my properties or any other property typically is going to make sure they have a roof over their head. So they're going to pay that first before they maybe go to a bar and have a beer or other things, right? So, and that has proven during COVID too, where you can see that multifamily has had the most resiliency compared to all other asset classes.
Completely. And just out of curiosity, we obviously know that the multifamily asset class is going to be pretty promising these next few years. Are there any other asset classes or any other parts of the business that you think are promising, maybe during a recession and as we come out of it?
Yes, I think there are definitely other asset classes that I personally have looked into further as well. I really do like storage, so storage units, because we all love our stuff. And with people, but on a more serious note, like with people basically now moving around, right? Like not maybe buying houses, being more mobile, working from home. There's way more like movement going on, right? Like people are moving on from city to city, place to places. So with that, people typically downsize or just need somewhere to store their stuff for a couple months. So I do see that storage units are gonna go up in basically in business activity. So I really like that kind of food group too. And also, I still think like retail is still great, but it always depends on what kind of retail. Like I definitely like the smaller retail. They're basically in companies, maybe even like a small apartment building. So what we do is we'll build an apartment building, maybe even like a little bit of a residential community, and we finish it off with a complementary like little retail center, right? Where you have like your little hair salon, nail salon, dry cleaner, right? So that's the retail that I still love, and that I know it's not going to go away, because we just have those needs as consumer, right? Like you're gonna need to dry clean your beautiful, blue pants and sports coat over here, right? So it's like you're gonna have to do, or get a haircut. There are certain things that's not going to go away that you will need, and that's the retail that I definitely still believe in, right? Now the big malls is a different conversation, but the small experimental kind of service retail is definitely something I also like. And another little kind of, I would say, unique product type that I like too, and seeing it's growing more and more, is basically it's called like flex space, right? So basically, what it is, you'll have like a half an office in the front of the building, then you'll have an industrial part in the back, like a little, basically a mini warehouse. So this is mainly for your smaller business owners, right? Like your plumber, right? Your technician, your AC guy. So anybody that has their own small to medium business that wants like a little bit of an office feel, like office in the front to receive people, do small business activities, but then mainly needs a little storage warehouse in the back to run their business. That's what I was mentioning. Like a plumber is typically a good one. So those are little businesses, particularly in tertiary areas where people just need these kind of little spots to run their business out of. So that's something we're looking to more and more, and that also is just like in my opinion, a pretty strong asset class.
Absolutely. And, a lot of people are looking for those sorts of strong asset classes, especially when the economy is a bit unpredictable. And, people talk about that diversification, right? So let's say I own my own home, I own a condo, maybe I'm leasing a space, or I own my own business. How important is it for me to diversify my real estate portfolio during a recession?
During a recession, I would definitely not try to diversify too much. Like if we're
Mm,
talking about in the middle, right? Like
mm,
it's a different conversation as a setup in whole. But during a recession, I would mainly try to focus on pointed opportunities. Now, because it's a recession,
mm,
I would only play with asset classes that you have experience with, right? Like during a recession, there's great opportunity, but I wouldn't say it's really the time to kind of like experiment, right?
mm,
Because that's where you can really get screwed too. So I would
mm,
really then like stick to what you know. Again, in my case, it's mainly multifamily. So if I see during a recession a great opportunity where an apartment developer or syndicator, someone who just bought an asset class, like an asset, apartment asset, can't like really afford it or just structured a bad deal. Well, now I maybe see an opportunity I can pick up for cents on a dollar, but that's only because I'm very familiar with this asset class and I can actually value correctly. I know how to improve the operations and how to force or increase the value of the asset versus if I'm trying to diversify, maybe go
mhm.
into an industrial complex. That's good, even if I think I'm getting a good deal, but I don't really maybe know all the pointed, detailed steps to take action to improve this asset, right? So I would definitely then like stick more to what you know, but then like really basically go hard on that because that's where you can make a lot of money and really take advantage of these some of these great opportunities.
Absolutely. And I know one thing that, during a recession, when people are looking to build, they're looking to develop, they're concerned about land prices. So I remember even, 2, 3 years ago, working with builders and developers, they were getting these single family home lots ready to build, 3 bed, 2 bath, and they were buying them for 5, 6, 7 grand, right?
Yeah,
So
some
what,
of them, yeah.
well under $10,000, they're buying the land alone. Obviously, the conversation has changed a lot. So how is this recession affecting land prices? Are they kind of staying still, or should we wait or buy what you can, or what do you think?
I mean, I think the best time to plant a tree was 25 years ago.
Yeah,
so so
yeah,
uh so yeah, like there's when it comes to land, like there's always this never a bad time to buy. It just depends on your personal belief and where you want to be invested in. But to say that, we're in Texas here, so I'm here, and maybe even you're here because land is
yeah,
cheap, right? Like
yeah,
land is cheap. Go anywhere
yeah.
else, like land is cheap, particularly regarding everything else that's going on here, right? But what happened in a recession is that's why I said I don't forget the printing, like, about the printing of the
Mm,
money, right? With that much money
mm,
being printed, naturally assets go up, right? Like if there's
mm,
more of something, in this case dollars, and there's a fixed amount of the product that you're correlating money to, which is
mm,
land,
mhm,
right? The land price is going to inherently go up because now we got more money, but the land didn't change. So the land
mm.
price is going to go up to reflect what we print in the money.
Ah,
So the land value definitely went up all over the nation, but I would say particularly in Texas because of the huge growth that we've had, like the influx of new people over here and businesses, a lot of businesses. But I definitely land bank and did it a little bit before COVID, so
mm,
it's definitely helped. But overall, there are a lot of good deals out there that I see, particularly in tertiary markets, that I'm still buying that, are very promising because of the huge growth again that we're seeing. So again, like when it comes to land, dude, it's like I wish I would have bought this and this land like years and years ago, right? But there's always good opportunity, and depending on the growth, because with land, you really have to do your homework. It always depends on what you believe in and what timeline do you have, right? Like, can I get this land for $1 a foot, but maybe I have to wait 10 years until it's like maybe $4 a foot, or can I buy this land for $2 a foot, but it's gonna like, but there's an HEB or a Tesla factory being built like right next door in a year. So all these things matter a lot, but with something finite like land, there's never really like a perfect timing. It's better like if you want to build something on there, it's better sooner or later, because everything's just gonna get built up more and more, which is gonna push up the prices inherently.
Completely. And one thing you mentioned earlier, you mentioned how there's deals to be made. There's obviously deals out there. You just have to, I guess, basically do your homework. And you mentioned the land bank. Can you explain more of what the land bank is and how people can use it?
And so, I mean, land banking just basically means I'm gonna buy land in a certain area where I know or have the belief that it's gonna increase in value without basically doing anything, right? So it's like, okay, let's say I'm buying a piece of land out in Pasadena, Texas, right? Maybe because I know that Tesla is going to build a huge factory out there, but it might not be public information, or maybe I have a buddy who works at Tesla, or maybe I'm just person of that belief because I've read some articles, or just like certain information sources that makes you form the belief that something is going to be built over there. Like I mentioned, or like an HEB can be built anywhere. Well, that's gonna, if you have an HEB next to your land site, well, that's gonna increase the land value, because now maybe the Dollar General wants to build on your land, or CVS, or maybe a hospital, right? So the more activity is around a piece of land, the higher it's gonna increase in value. So that's what I've done too. Like I'll buy land out in Bay City, knowing that now in a few years they're going to be literally billions of dollars invested in the form of plants, because Reservoir County has more allocation for like air pollution to build more plants. Long story. Anyway, I know that they're building more plants, so in this case, I'm of the belief that the land value is going to go up. Now the question is, with that belief, in what time frame? Is it going to be a year or 5 years? And that's the risk you take, right? Because like sometimes it's not up to you, right? It's up to the $1 billion investment committee of the plants when they're actually going to start it, and then if you're going to stay on plan and whatnot. But if I'm of the belief and I've got time, then that's the kind of game you play.
Absolutely. That's a big concern that people also have. You made a great explanation about using the land bank. How is getting access to capital? How is getting funding different now than maybe a few years ago? Right. Obviously you talked about printing money, people doing deals, people sitting and waiting, maybe being a bit more conservative with their numbers. How is getting funding now different compared to a while back?
Yeah, that's also a very good question. That's changed a lot. But I want to just make one more comment on land banking.
Yeah.
Just because I'm not, I mean, land banking, it's again great if you, I don't do land banking a lot. And that's mainly because it's a form of control that I don't really have, right? If I build an apartment building or investment apartment building, I know I can control certain things. I can minimize expenses. I can increase revenue, certain aspects. Or if I develop something, I know I can control the process. Versus land banking, it is highly speculative because you are not in control, right? Like you're at the mercy of other businesses growing around you and their time frame. So you're at that mercy. So I just want to make that comment, because like there's nothing really you can do to improve the land besides the economic environment around it, right? Now, if the land's like completely wooded, something like that, you can like trim it down, you can clean it up. That increases the value just by you making it more like prep ready, right? But the actual inherent value is determined by the economic development around it. Versus like if I build an apartment building or improve an apartment building, I now can physically control to some degree the value of the asset by forcing appreciation, right? So I just want to clarify that.
Yeah.
But you talk about funding, right?
Yep.
So do you want to talk about equity or debt first?
Whatever you want.
Okay.
Debt, equity, whatever you
So
want. Yeah.
equity actually I found it a little bit easier to raise
Mm,
recently, maybe because people are getting more skittish about the stock market, something like that. But I found a lot of people, at least in my circle, are more and more turned on to the idea of investing in multifamily. Maybe because of also the media hype, like we've all, I'm sure you've heard of the likes of
mhm,
like Grant Cardone.
mhm,
I think, think what you want of him, but what he has done is he has put multifamily investing and generally speaking, alternative investing on the map, where a lot
mhm,
of people just didn't know about it, didn't know
mhm,
how to get involved. They didn't know that they can even get involved, right? Because like, who looks at a high rise and be like, well, I could be a part owner of that high rise over there. It's like, no, like
yeah. Uh-huh.
everyone thinks first like, oh, I can buy a house. Maybe I
Mhm,
can own a small little like retail shop, whatever, right?
mhm,
At most. But
mhm,
no one looks at a $150 million hires like, oh, well, I could be a minority owner in this kind of deal, whatever,
mhm,
right? So I think to answer the question, equity has been a little easier just because there's more people are more educated now that this is really a real, no pun intended, real
yeah.
say, but a
Yeah.
real
Uh-huh.
and also
Right.
like good investment strategy because you get better absolute returns, right?
Mm,
People also like the fact that it's tied to a real asset, right? You're not just investing in a stock that you can't like see or touch really
mm,
like you know I can go to a building I'm investing, I can touch it, I can feel it, I can like look how it's run, how it's operated. So people really like that, like part of ownership and being able to kind of see what they're invested in. I
mm,
found, and then it's just like I also love multifamily. I mean, going back to maybe a little bit the previous question, just because it's
mm,
simple, right? Like
mm,
the leasing structure is simple, and investors understand that. If
mhm,
something's the more complicated something is, particularly for an investor, the more they have to think about what they're investing in general
mhm,
to before clicks, the more reluctant they're going to be investing with the dollars, right? If I
mm,
have to explain to you derivative, well, this hits the blah blah blah, you're gonna be like, dude, I don't know what's going on. It might be good, but if I don't get it, it's almost like sketchy, right?
mhm,
Versus multifamily is easy. We've almost everyone's lived in apartment buildings, so they kind of get it already, right?
mhm,
And at the very least, you explain, leases expire typically 12 months. People go in. I can renew me. I can adjust my rents up and down, right? I can improve the building. It gives me a chance to also upgrade the units when someone moves it. So it's very simple, and the operation's very simple. Unlike an office building or retail, the leases are staggered differently. Like this guy has a 8-year lease. This guy has a 12-year lease with a step-out clause. And what it's just more complicated. Also, it's
mhm,
pricey, yes, and everything. So I
mm,
like multifamily for that reason, and I like it more so because it's easier to connect with an investor and explain to them what they're actually investing in, right?
mm,
Because at the end of the day, I want to be I want to be basically an educator and help people invest into alternative assets, specifically multifamily. And I can only
mhm,
do that if I can explain that
mm,
relatively easy, right? And them being comfortable. Because at the end of the day, I don't want my investors typically become a part-time multifamily specialist, right? I want them to
right.
kind of get it, to trust the asset and to trust me, and then we can follow the business plan, right? But if I
Mhm,
have an investor that's a doctor, I want that doctor to still be a doctor and do stuff, right? It
mhm,
doesn't need to be concerned about it in all the ins and outs because it's just like not necessary as long as they get the big picture and are comfortable with what they're investing in. And
mhm,
that's what I like about it because it just makes it easier. Since I tried to do some deals in the past in office, for instance, I had some good opportunity, but like honestly, it's unless you're investing with other professionals that already are familiar with that asset class, it is kind of hard explaining that to someone cold who never really
mm,
invested in any real estate deal.
mm,
It just takes more time. Not that it's better or worse, it just takes more time. So equity, because of all this kind of education and marketing that's been flowing around, has been kind of a little bit easier for me.
mm,
Again, for the main reason that people I think are skittish of other investment opportunities, and then just the education piece that has been working for me with all the media outlet. Like it's just been more top of mind. So that's why equity's been a little bit easier.
mm.
Now debt is a different situation, right? So it's like that has definitely become more and more challenging, right?
Mm,
We know that interest rates have been going up and up and up. I mean, the last FOMC meeting a deposit, the next one here in mid to late July, kind of got a feeling we're gonna go up another 25 basis points. At least that's kind of what I'm hearing behind the curtains a little bit. With that, the debt has definitely become more challenging to raise because, banks are getting a little bit more frightened. They're tightening up their lending policies. They're tightening up who they're lending to, right? So this is where the relationship part plays a big deal in my business, because right now, like, to be honest, I'm only doing I mainly use local banks for construction loans, and to be honest, like, I'm only doing deals right now with relationships we already have, because otherwise, with a new relationship, the underwriting scrutiny would probably be too strict, where it would either kill a deal or just wouldn't be like worth it enough, basically. So that's where I'd say the relationship part really kicks in, because if I've done 10 deals with a bank already, they know that they already like my product. They know about my quality and how I conduct myself in business, right? They maybe already know my performance, kind of like, they know, okay, I can perform in a certain way where, like, my leasing metrics make sense, my exit number makes sense, just because of that, the reps that we've already gone through together in that relationship with that particular bank. So that's what I'd say. Again, it's like the relationship part is very important, because if you don't have any relationship with a bank, they might not be willing to open up a new relationship in this kind of environment, just because they're, like, very scared. Like, I really had a conversation with a banker. He's like, hey, look, it's pretty simple, right? Like, if he doesn't do any deal, he might make no money or just stick to his, like, whatever little salary, right? But, like, get by and survive. But I was told very clearly, like, hey, if a banker makes a bad deal, well, now that's his job. Like, he's gonna get, like, fired. So it's like, if you're in that position, let's say you got family, you got people that depend on you, well, you might not go on a limb with this new developer you don't even have a relationship with, even if you're going to make yourself and the bank money. But it's like, is it worth your job, right? And, like, not providing for your family. So it's like, and I understand that, right? We're all humans, so I get that, because they're tightening their underwriting and withdrawing some allocated funds from certain projects. So that makes sense. So that's where, like, you really have to know bankers and have a relationship with them, so you can, like, in these kind of challenging times, like, carry a deal together with a certainty that's going to be okay, right? Like, might not be a home run like other deals, but we're still making money, everything's going to be fine, versus like a new bank might not give you that opportunity, right?
Sure.
So that, I would say, that's been, like, more challenging, because, again, like, I mainly have to resort to my existing relationships to get deals done, which means I cannot do as many deals as I would like to. I'm still grateful because I can get deals done, so that's good in this kind of environment, but it's just, you have limited opportunity, right? Just like anybody else. So that has been the main challenge, I would say, recently, is the debt piece.
Completely. And that's a great perspective as well. I guess, at least starting in the business, I always thought it was, mildly corny, people saying real estate was a relationship business, but it really is. It's so true.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, even, dude, it starts with everything, right? Like, from the realtor you hire to find you a piece of land, to the banker you work with, to the leasing agents, to maybe your, construction guy. It's all relationships. Because at the end of the day, it's like, you want to do business together. Like, real estate is a long-lived business. It's not just like a one and done. Because you use these people over and over again. Like I mentioned, like the bank guy. Like, I do 10 deals with them, so it's like, we make each other money, so we're happy, right? It's like, we're like, hey, you're good. Like, we're making each other, like, in a business sense, all happy, right? Because we're all making money together, and what goes around comes around, and you keep on deepening those relationships, and that's what really matters. And that's why, I know it sounds a little corny, but that's really, it really comes down to relationships, because you do work with people, and you do see them again and again and again. It's not like a sales job. It's like, oh, I sell you a car, and you're not going to need a car next 5 or 10 years. So, like, see ya. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like that. It's way different playing field.
Yeah, completely. I guess especially now with technology, I mean, you really are playing the long game, right? I mean, you're showing what you're doing, right? You're going out to the site. Maybe you're taking a few videos, and it compounds over time.
Yeah, and definitely got to put yourself out there and build new relationships. But I would say that's one of the main things that will propel you forward, is to maintain and respect your existing relationships.
Absolutely. And I know that you'd briefly talked about it as well, but could you kind of run through your process really from start to finish, right? So maybe talk a bit about raising money, getting through the deal, and then your exit strategy. Could you kind of walk us through a few of those steps?
Yeah, so I can just like kind of give you my, again, like I have a team, so I play a certain role, and other team members play a certain role, so I can talk more about like kind of my role too. But if you have any questions, like just let me know. But basically, it's pretty simple. We'll typically either do old school where we'll drive around. Again, like I mean, I build mainly in like tertiary markets, so I build in smaller towns because I'm a small to medium sized developer. Like I'll build 50 to 100 units. I'm not competing with the larger guys in town that are building 300 units, at least yet. So my role, I'll typically find the land, or a realtor will present me with a piece of land that seems attractive, like in one of the markets that I want to be in. Let's just say Bay City as an example. I'll do my rough research. Okay, like what are rental rates there? Like what can I basically target as a viable market rent? What's the inventory looking like? What's occupancy looking like? If all the occupancy in that market's really full, right, and all the inventories may be really old, outdated, it means there might be a good opportunity to build something newer. Because all the other properties are like filled up, right? And they're all older. So if I build something brand new, yeah, it's going to be a little bit more expensive, but I'm sure I'm going to get some of the other people that would like a upgraded lifestyle, right? Because they can afford it. They're just there out of habit, basically. So that's kind of the research I do, right? And then typically I'll look at maybe if there are new schools around, new businesses. As I mentioned earlier, in Bay City, there's a lot of economic drive going on with like these oil and gas companies building their refineries out there, like really billions of dollars being invested. So I'll kind of take all this market research and data, put it together, come up with a thesis, like why I think I can build maybe 50 or 60 units that could easily be absorbed by the tenants in there. So I'll start with that. Then once I have like my own belief, like once I believe, okay, there's an opportunity here, then I'll work on like how can I relate that to my partners, my investors, right? Because like now I'm like, okay, based on my experience and my knowledge and the numbers I do, I'm like, okay, now I think there's an opportunity. Now my job is to relate to my team and my investors, like, hey, here's an opportunity.
Yeah.
Let me tell you why.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So that's then my job. So I'll put together a business plan, basically like a pitch deck or proposal, if you will, right? I'll present to the rest of my team, and then once everyone's on board, we'll kind of start thinking about, okay, how much equity you need, how much like money, basically, like, if you will, like down payment, like how much money up front do we need out of our pocket to get this going? How much money will we need from the bank? What terms? I mean, again, given our current environment, the lending terms have changed a lot, right? The leverage going down, interest rates going up. So based on the money that I need, so out of pocket, the equity, and the terms dictated by the banks, so like I kind of have like a mental note of like what the current debt environment's like. So I piece it all together, make a deal whole, and then I got to think about, okay, does it still make sense? And then I go to my investors and go, okay, based on all the market research, based on the equity requirement it would take, based on the loan we most likely could get, this is how the investment opportunity would present itself. And then I typically present this very opportunity to my investors. And either that's received positively or not. And we'll have that conversation. In this scenario, they're gonna think it's a great opportunity, as most of them are. We'll raise the money, or at least part of the money. We'll either, sometimes if it takes a little bit more time, put an option on land or just straight up buy it. And then we'll finalize the loan part that I mentioned. Like because there's a lot of like moving pieces to do at the same time. So while I'm raising money for my investors, I'll already start pinging banks about what I'm trying to do, and confirm basically my belief on the terms that I might say, okay, I can buy this at 6%. I might need a 6% loan because I might need 40% equity. I think I can get an 8.5% rate, right? So like I'll kind of like shoot over to a bank and be like, hey, I've got this in mind. This is kind of like fit your bucket. And they'll be, okay, maybe we can do, maybe the rate now is like a little bit higher, maybe it's 8.7. Maybe they can give me a little bit better leverage. Maybe they can give me 65% leverage on the property. So I'll just like reconfirm basically my data points with them and see if it all checks out. And then once all that's finalized, we'll finish up the equity raise. Again, we'll typically have an option on land, already bought it, and then it's off the races, right? Then we got the equity, we got the loan, we got all the planning done. Like all the planning typically also takes place kind of while I'm putting together the business plan, which means I'll hire an architect, I'll hire an engineer to kind of like put the deal together, like on an actual structural basis, because I don't know how to do that, you know? And so there's a lot of moving pieces, but once the loan is finalized, that's when a deal, at least on my end, is kind of like done setting up, right? Because I got the money, I got the bank's money, I got the plan, I got everything I need to do to get the construction going. Then my other partner, who's the builder, will do the whole construction phase, and then I'll kind of like I'll manage, I'll kind of like be on top of the management side of things. So I'll make sure we're within timeline construction, right? Like we're using the allocated funds of the budget during construction phase. But other than that, I'm just like managing the process. And I really get engaged again once we're leasing the property to make sure we're hitting our leasing targets, right? Like what we're trying to rent the unit for. Then I'll do that until we stabilize the property, meaning like once it's like full. And then I'll start targeting exits. So I'll ping some of our previous buyers and new buyers, or I might hire even a broker to sell the asset with us.
Sure.
And that's basically the full cycle, right? So we'll typically do a couple of those a year.
Yeah, thank you for walking us through that, because I know, people hear a lot of different terms. They, the debt, the equity, the, raising money, and obviously the interest rate. So it's great that you're able to kind of put it in that sort of timeline.
Yeah, if you want me to clarify any terms, like please let me know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's interesting. You mentioned how you obviously live in Houston. You have a lot of connections here in Houston, but you're also working in tertiary markets. Do you think that's maybe the future? I guess, what would you consider a tertiary market? Is it a certain radius outside of a major city, or is it like, what exactly is tertiary?
Yeah, so it's mainly like we live here in Houston, right? So it's mainly cities that are a little bit outside. So for instance, most of our projects are 30 to 60 minutes outside of like Houston proper, like the city, if you will. Like, and tertiary for us is mainly anywhere between a population of 10 to 30,000 people of population. Like that's kind of the cities that we play in, just because there's typically like a good growth story there, right? There, again, like I mentioned, like new schools, maybe business development, highway expansions. Those are all good signs. Communities being built around there. Those are all good signs of growth. But those markets are markets that we choose because they're, the bigger guys don't want to go there just because there's not enough for them to like build, just basically not enough opportunity, right? Because I'm a big dude, meaning like a big developer, and I mainly build 200-300 units. I'm doing myself a disservice going to a town of like 10,000 people, because yeah, I can build 200 units there, but there might not be as much demand there, right? So they typically overlook these markets, which is perfect for a developer of my size, because that's my bread and butter, and it also means I have less to no competition. So that's why I choose these tertiary markets. And but going back to definition, it's typically cities that are like a little bit outside, smaller in size. Yeah, that's kind of the target market over here.
Absolutely. And I know that, you're obviously well versed in the business. You've done quite a few deals. You've spent, multiple years coming out of school and kind of getting a lot of different deals under your belt. How should an inspiring investor or even multifamily developer properly educate themselves about doing these sorts of projects?
Yeah, I would, if you're younger, I would definitely recommend first working for the company or team, just to have that kind of like deal flow, right? Because when you get started, you're not gonna have deal flow. You're gonna be chasing your tail. So working with a a reputable team is going to help you a lot just to kickstart that experience. I mean, that's what I did. Again, I got a little bit lucky jumping onto a very successful team on the multifamily side, which at the time I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just kind of lucked into multifamily. If this would have been an office team, I would have probably been in office now, right? But I'm very happy I'm in multifamily.
Yeah.
But just to say that. But I would definitely recommend going with an experienced team if you have that option or connection. Again, just because you'll get the deal flow, you'll learn from their lessons, right? Like you'll save yourself from some pitfalls and whatnot. Now, if you don't want to do that, find yourself a mentor first, because again, we're playing a little bit of a bigger game. It's not just like buying a little home and flipping it, which even there's a lot of risk, and not to say that in itself is already a bigger task, right? But if you want to go into the apartment space, where you're playing with bigger checks and have more responsibility, it's definitely not an individual sport, it's a team sport. And with that, I would say first course of action is just to find a mentor and see however you can provide value, right? Because dude, everyone has limited time, right? So if you can somehow provide yourself valuable to an experienced investor or developer by maybe helping out with research, right? Driving around and finding land opportunities, or just being of some value, right? Like everyone has unique skill sets or whatever, that will typically get your foot in the door. You can be a part of some deals, or at least witness some deals, and through that learn the process. Because again, real estate is a long game kind of thing. It's not something you're gonna learn in a week. It's not something you're gonna make a whole lot of money in just 1 year or your first year, right? It's a long-term game, and with that, you also have to think in a long-term mindset. That's why I'm saying building relationships, finding mentors, because these are people that are going to help you in the long run. Because again, you're not going to be able to do it by yourself. At least on this kind of level, it's a team sport. It doesn't work just by yourself.
Absolutely. And kind of to stick to that personal development, I guess, side of the questions, what's the best investment you've made that's not real estate related, but in yourself?
Exactly that in
Exactly
myself.
that.
Exactly that in myself.
Yeah.
Dude, I spent a lot of. I went to leadership courses. I went to all sorts of. I hired coaches for various reasons, right? For my personal development, for in business. So I would definitely say it's been in myself. And we can go more into that too, because as you build more and more relationships in real estate, right? I know we'll probably go into JVs here later on too. You'll see the power of connection and really connecting with people, but you can really only do that the more comfortable you are with yourself and really knowing who you are and what your unique skill set is. Because I mentioned particularly multifamily development is a team sport, right? I need someone. I need to raise the money. I need a builder. I need architects. I need engineers. You have investors, right? So you have multiple people on a team, and with that, you really have to know, it sounds cliche, but you have to kind of know who you are and what piece of the puzzle you can play best, right? Because again, you can't do it all, so you want to focus on your strength and what it is you like to do. Maybe you're the money raiser. Maybe you're more the financial underwriting guy. Maybe you're really good at putting together pitch decks. Maybe you're the architects. Maybe because you grew up in a certain neighborhood or whatever, you just have a lot of wealthy contacts, friends, networks. So maybe you're the money raising guy, right? Maybe you're an introvert. Maybe you're an extrovert. There's this literally space for everyone in this kind of field because it's a team sport. So that's the beautiful thing. Obviously, you can play multiple hats. Now I wear multiple hats, but generally speaking, it's a team sport. And knowing where you fit in the most is going to be one of the key drivers to your success. Because then you're not swimming uphill or against the stream. You're basically swimming with the stream. And with that, I would say the best investment is definitely investing in yourself, so you can really be confident in what piece you can serve your team the best, and also be happy at doing.
Absolutely. Is there anything that you haven't said you'd really just like to hit home for our audience? Maybe we're here in Houston, another part of Texas, another part of the country. Is there anything you haven't said you'd really just like to let our audience know?
Yeah. Well, I would say definitely look into more into multifamily investing. It's not as like basically unattainable as people think it is. It's relatively easy and, in my opinion, one of the safest thing to invest in versus into a company or stock that you have no control over or don't really know what's going on or can't feel or touch. Again, if I invest into Facebook, like I can't touch my Facebook stock, right? Yeah, I can drive to the headquarters, but like that's not Facebook. Like what is it? Like it's this whole
All
like
right.
concept, right? Versus if I invest into again like in a high rise, I can literally drive this building, touch it, talk to a manager, look at it. I can be like, hey, this is dirty, this is cool, whatever. Right? I can, I, I have a real sense of ownership. I feel like, and that, and I personally just like connect to that a lot, and I think a lot of people do too.
Mhm.
So I would just say people like, hey, if you want to, obviously like check out check out my website, GFG Developments. We have a lot of information on there to kind of educate yourself to get more familiar with it. You can also, reach out to me directly via email, which probably will be. You can give them in the link below, or it will also be on my website. So I'm definitely want to be an educator and make people feel comfortable getting to learn more into this kind of sort of investing because it's really not that complicated. I think a lot of times we overcomplicate things in our mind or just kind of like make it almost like intimidating. But this is really something I think can really help a lot of people just get more freedom, right? Like get financially free maybe, or just have an investment that they feel good and safe about that is like proven over. I mean, I don't want to go back way back, but like we all know real estate has been one of the
Yeah.
major investments over like hundreds of years,
Yeah.
thousands, if you will. And I mean, it's a fact that real estate has made the most millionaires in the U.S. And I mean, I believe in it, and I would just urge people to educate themselves more or reach out to people such as myself or Aaron, and just have that conversation, how to get involved. Right, there are a lot of resources out there, a lot of people that preach the same thing, but just basically keep informed in what's out there, and take more control of your own investments. Right, like a lot of people put their investments into 401k or automate things, which is great, but also like be more informed in what you're actually investing in. Right? Like,
Mm.
I had a 401k when I worked a corporate job, but I
Mm.
had no clue what they were investing in. If it's
Yeah.
this, that, I had no oversight, nothing. Again, like
Mhm.
here, all my investors know exactly what they're investing in, what the game plan is. So you're really aligned with your individual goal and what your money's doing and making your money work for you.
Mm.
And that's what I believe in, is that more transparency and also more responsibility
Mm.
that each investor has, right? It's like taking more control of your future, not just letting some dude that's managing a huge, fund somewhere just clicking some buttons and your money's just like tied up in some ETF, whatever fund, and you don't know what's going on, right? Like
Yeah.
that's my thing. It's just like let's all take a little bit more responsibility about how we're investing our money so we can like create the life that we want and also that we want to hopefully pass on to, you know, to build a legacy. Like that's kind of what I want to do.
Beautiful. I love that. I think that's a great note to end on. Obviously, I love your mindset, and I think what you're doing is really neat. Obviously, your experience in the business, you walking us through your entire process. The debt, the equity piece, and everything that goes into this side of the business. So, as Felix mentioned, we will have his info in the link to this video, y'all. So if you want to click, you want to connect with Felix, whether you're in another part of Texas, another part of the country, or you're down here in Houston, Texas, you can connect with Felix. Felix, it's been great, my man. I've learned a heck of a lot, about you and about your business and what you do, and I'm real excited to see what you do in the future. So thank you for coming on tonight.
Likewise, Aaron, pleasure always speaking to you. I know you have a lot of great guests, so it's always a pleasure talking to you. Also, like learning from you, right? Like, I mean, you've talked to so many people where your knowledge at this point and the questions you ask honestly are great questions because some of these like I don't even think about, right? So
Yeah.
like you really make me also like internalize more so like what I'm doing and maybe more I can like work on more. So I really appreciate you coming around and us doing this and hope there are many more to come.
Yes, sir. That's right. As mentioned, y'all, we will have Felix's link in the description of this video, y'all. We're signing off from Houston, and we will talk to you later.